do you mean? Jeffrey, it's the right thing to do. So we need to do it for everyone. Like, oh, Nina, come on. We got volunteer relationships to think about. We've had volunteers who've been teaching on their own for a year. I don't think this is a good idea. Nobody's going to go along with this. It's like, no, it is the right thing to do. It's like, okay, Nina, tell you, we'll talk about it. You go talk to your volunteers, and, we'll see. So I think, okay, this isn't going to happen. So great, I've had this big success. I can report back to Washington. We're on the line. What's really going to happen is we're going to train the new volunteers and maybe make it an option for the old volunteers. And so what I see Nina proceed to do, and of course I see Nina proceed to do this several times through the next 5 years, is she puts together a crack team of very thoughtful, very intelligent volunteers. She sells the idea to them. She convinces them that she's right. She completely and totally co-ops them, and she comes up with a plan. And she uses those volunteers to roll it out. So I'm sitting there thinking she's crazy, and it won't work. And she goes on, and she implements it. And so I was both right and wrong. I was right that almost everybody who tried to convince Nina that she was wrong would try to convince her that she was wrong. And that included all the people who told me there was no way in the world I'd get her to do this in the first place, which of course I didn't get her to do it in the first place. She got herself to do it in the first place. Or that she'd be convinced by me or others that should change, or that her idea would not work. Because she did it. At the end, Nina got literally, and this was probably about March, Nina, so somewhere around March to sending volunteers out into the schools in the end of August, September, she had gotten everybody to completely and totally give up on direct teaching. Nobody, in fact, nobody was allowed to. That was a Nina rule. Nobody was allowed to. Now, we've since modified it because smart, intelligent, thoughtful volunteers have worked with Nina and they've come up with new ideas. But so we took a program in 2008 that was direct teaching all the time and took it to team teaching. And having been a volunteer in a direct teaching program, having trained volunteers and supported volunteers in 3 other direct teaching programs, I was really going by the seat of my pants and orders to do this. And what I saw, and I credit Nina and this group of very intelligent volunteers at the time, was that if you do it right, it is a lot better. And so having watched volunteers teach alone in classrooms in 6, 7 countries, and having worked intensively in education and development, what I saw Nina manage to pull off, and of course Elvira's been doing it in her own way before then, but what she managed to do was she created classrooms that were taught better than the Americans would teach alone and better than the Moldovans would teach alone. So we had volunteers who learned to teach better. We had Moldovans who learned to teach better. We had children in classrooms who got better education, and we had much better results, and they're more sustainable. And that was due to the leadership of this woman in the room. And what we got were real partnerships and a whole lot of really tough work. And I haven't been able to talk to the brand new English education volunteers, but I do talk about how tough it is. And we recognize them that it's harder to do. The team teaching route that the English and the health volunteers do here, it's tougher than what I did. Absolutely tougher. And it's better, and it's more important, and you're more valuable. And it comes out of your tough times. So please, particularly those going into it for this first year, be careful. It's amazing how unscripted things get in here. So that was the big story. That was, I was asked to tell a story, so that's my big story. The other things that happened in that year that put us on a path that interestingly intersects here in a funny way. We did do 3 of our 4 project plans. We took all of economic and business development out of the COD project, and we put it in the ag project at the time. So it became the agribusiness and rural business development project. and really put us on the path to what is now the Small Enterprise Development Project at that time. So we were moving in that direction even back then. So we were that much closer to being the program that you know now. There are many things that I learned from these experiences during this year. One was that people couldn't be more wrong about the creativity and flexibility and intelligence of the staff in Moldova. I was led to believe it was going to be hard. What I found was, watch out. If you change their mind, they're going to run you over. And that's what Nina did. Still, once you've convinced them, they're going to make change happen. And the second is that there couldn't be a group of staff that are more capable, more caring, and more passionate about volunteers and the impact they make in their communities than the ones that you mostly have supporting you today. Oleg, the general service manager, are you there? Yeah, there you are. The general service manager would occasionally during my tenure send out notes asking staff to please not take the toilet paper out of the bathrooms to use as tissues. And I had to tell him multiple times, you don't have Nina and Elvira reporting to you. I need this as a financial hedge. Because having them come in to talk about their volunteers, and this overwhelmingly is what gets them got them in my office, and I'm sure now in Janet's office, coming in to tell me the fabulous thing the volunteer is doing, and knowing it to the minute detail, and crying in joy that that person has run ahead and that person is doing a wonderful thing. So, new volunteers, and volunteers that I worked with before. The first thing I really do hope you can appreciate here in Peace Corps Moldova is the staff you have supporting you. They aren't perfect at all. Nobody is. They are, though, and I've spent the better part of 20 years. I could have been a Moldova 1, literally. I went into training on May 28th, 1993 in Tanzania. So I could have been here, is that this is the best Peace Corps staff that I know of. It's the best support that Peace Corps has to offer, and I say that with great respect for all the Peace Corps staff that I've worked with. This is absolutely positively the best. The next thing that I ask you to remember, and this is what I say in lieu of giving a swearing-in speech tomorrow, which will be my first one that I haven't been able to give in 5 years, which is sad. Not at all. You got a great country director. Remember that this is your experience. It's not mine. It's not the person you replaced. It's not your best friends. It's not the person you sat by in language class. It's not your site mate. It's yours. To me, one of the big parts of the magic of Peace Corps is that you benefit from service in direct proportion to what you give. If you give very little, you will benefit little. You'll still benefit more than you gave. But if you give a lot and you give everything that you can give, then this will be among the best experiences of your life. And we've got a lot of RPCVs in the room that I think will tell you the same. It's not going to be easy. Justine and I talked about this a little bit. Peace Corps used to call itself the toughest job you'll ever love. And about 5 years ago, our marketing people decided that that doesn't resonate with Americans anymore. And that may be true, but it's too bad, because there is something inherently true about that. That somehow life is calling, how far you go misses, which is fine because it gets you in the door, or it did. We've got some issues there. But it doesn't prepare you for what you're about to experience. Taking yourself thousands of miles away from home and forcing yourself to care about, learn about, and be of service in communities and cultures that you don't know is hard. It just is. There's no doubt about it. We can't do anything about it. We try. And we also require you to be on stage for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's exhausting. And unfortunately, it's often fraught with an intense sense of failure, which nobody's talked about except Tommy, I think. Only occasionally highlighted, particularly in your first year, with little glimpses of success. And in reality, those glimpses become bigger. And at the end, you have this profound sense of success and fulfillment, but it does take a long time. So be careful with yourself. It's an important thing that you're doing, but it's also tough. At the very, very end of my time, and some people unfortunately got to read the note where I say I figured this out in the bathtub, which is true. I was struck by the realization that the volunteer experience is akin to a modern-day vision quest. What Joseph Campbell, if anybody knows Joseph Campbell, refers to as the hero's journey. It's something that is built into us, and the volunteer experience elicits this in us. We don't mean it, we don't necessarily have the words for it, but we experience it. So many of us do. And so you're putting yourself out on a limb to do something heroic. And maybe nobody put those words in your mind, but you are. And feeling like you're not succeeding at it is very tough. I truly believe, though, that if you think your service is or will be easy, and there occasionally, I'm not sure if you did, I'm not sure if Janet is, occasionally you get a volunteer in your office that says it, and I'm always like, whoa, easy. It's not what I normally think of. But I typically think that you're missing a little bit. There's something that you're missing from it. Similarly, I've never known volunteers who haven't made mistakes, sometimes pretty big ones. And I think in my 5 years here and 8 years with the agency abroad, that I tried to be fairly honest and open with volunteers, that I had a long list of errors from my Peace Corps volunteer experience. And I think it's pretty normal. And I think it's the experience that many of us have. All that said, I wholly consider my experience to be a good volunteer experience. I was a good volunteer. So when you find yourself doing things that maybe you aren't proud of at night, or you stayed up late like Nina did, and you thought about it more and decided that it wasn't, that wasn't your best day, realize that a lot of us have done it. And that's part of the experience, and it's part of what makes it hard, and it's okay. A few of the items that lead my personal list, and it's the generalized sense of errors, are judging situations and judging people far too quickly. Arrogance, cultural and otherwise. Sarcasm, superiority, and in general, going into situations with either a closed heart or a closed mind. I think most of the things that I've seen, or most of the times I've seen Peace Corps volunteers trip, it was one of these things that was at the root cause of it. So it's something to guard against, and I can't say that I was ever perfect at this, and I can't say I ever saw a volunteer who was, but I did see my part of the 1,100 Peace Corps Moldova volunteers who were trying. And that's what we want, and that's what we need. I feel confident to say that hopefully all of you came to Peace Corps to be of service and to learn. If you enter situations with this in mind and remember Peace Corps' unbelievable mission to promote peace and friendship, and I strongly encourage you to think about what that means, then you will make a difference to yourself and to the people of Moldova. 20 years later, like me, you will feel intensely proud of the service that you gave to this country and to your country, our country. My deepest congratulations to all of you who will swear in tomorrow, and congratulations to all who have been part of the great legacy that is Peace Corps Moldova. It's been my honor to be part of this legacy. I thank everybody back to all of you who started it. What a profound legacy you started. What a great foundation you gave us. You created something that I really can't express to you, how important it is, how great it is, and what it's meant to me, my family, and I think to all the villages and partners and homestays. If I had done what you've done, I could retire. I could do it. I just need the money. So, in closing, mulțumesc foarte mult, la multan, corpul pacii din Moldova.